The Ace of Cups is a wonderfully positive card about new beginnings in your life related to love, your emotions, intuition, and relationships. Stay tuned and learn more about how to interpret this card when it shows up in a reading. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we'll be learning the tarot deck one card at a time. Today's video is about the Ace of Cups. This video will begin with a short description of the card. Next, I'll briefly explain what this card means when it appears in a reading. Then we'll talk about what each element symbolizes and what the card means when it shows up in both the upright and reversed position in a reading. I'll share some examples from my life so you can relate to the card in a real-world situation. And stay tuned until the end and I'll give you several questions to help you connect with the card. I will be using the Rider-Waite Tarot in this video. You'll find the link to the deck below, as well as to the many books that I've used in my research. So let's get started. In the Ace of Cups, we see a white right hand with a white aura emerging from the clouds. On the palm is a gold chalice with 5 streams of water and 26 droplets spilling over the edge of the chalice. On the bowl of the chalice, we see the letter W. Below the bowl, we see bells and a set of angel wings. There is a dove above the chalice with a wafer in his mouth that has the sign of a cross. The water is falling onto a pond covered in either water lilies or lotus flowers. Some of the flowers are open and others are closed. There is a hill in the distance. The sky is gray. When the Ace of Cups appears in a reading, it means that you are opening your heart and experiencing a new beginning in areas of your life related to love, your emotions, intuition, and relationships. It can signal the beginning of a new romantic relationship or friendship, as well as anything else that you've thrown your heart and soul into, such as work, a hobby, or a project such as renovating your house. It can also signal a new step in a relationship, such as deepening feelings towards a love interest, a marriage proposal, a wedding, or the birth of a child. The Ace of Cups can also represent deepening your relationship with Spirit. It can be about beginning to get in touch with your emotions, learning to express your emotions, or learning to love yourself. Cups is a suit that represents emotions, and as you can see in the picture, your emotions are overflowing. As with all aces, this card is about a beginning but doesn't guarantee anything. For instance, you may feel like you've met the love of your life, but you still need to put in the work to build the relationship. Let's talk about the symbolism in the Ace of Cups. We see a right white hand with a white aura emerging from the clouds. The right hand is the hand of giving, and you are being offered a gift from Spirit. The fact that the hand is white and has an aura also confirms that it is a gift from Spirit. On the palm of the hand is a gold chalice. Gold is a precious metal that is associated with royalty and also God. A gold chalice would be far more valuable than one made of more common metal or ceramics. The chalice also contains the gifts we receive from Spirit. We see 5 streams of water spilling over the edges of the chalice. These streams of water represent the 4 elements plus Spirit. Because there is so much religious imagery in this card, the 5 streams of water could also represent the 5 wounds that Christ suffered during his crucifixion. These are wounds on his hands and feet, as well as on his torso. There is a dove above the chalice with a wafer in its mouth. Doves represent peace. The wafer is likely a communion wafer used in Christianity, and the cross on the wafer would symbolize Christ. The chalice is believed to be the Holy Grail. This was the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. So we have a lot of Christian religious symbolism: the Holy Grail, the 5 wounds of Christ, and then the body of Christ represented by the communion wafer and the blood of Christ represented by the water. It is not surprising that Waite was a staunch Catholic and that Pamela Coleman Smith converted to Catholicism just before she illustrated these cards. The water is falling onto a pond covered with either water lilies or lotus flowers. I did some research and they are actually different. Water lilies, pads, and flowers remain close to the surface of the water and grow no higher than 8 inches. Water lotuses grow up and out of the water and can extend as high as 4 to 6 feet. Given how this card is illustrated, I can't tell which type of flower it is. In Buddhism, lotus flowers represent purity and spiritual awakening. In Hinduism, the lotus represents beauty, fertility, and prosperity. For those of us in America, water lilies symbolize birth, enlightenment, and resurrection. I also can't tell the exact color of the lotus blossoms. I think they are red and orange. Red represents passion and the fact that energy is required. Orange also indicates a situation that requires action and intuition. Some of the flowers are opened and others are closed. This represents current and future opportunities to grow emotionally and spiritually. The green lily pads and the green hill in the distance represent adventure, growth, and health. The blue water represents intuition, imagination, and expansiveness. On the chalice, we see the letter W. The meaning is up for debate. It could be homage to A.E. Waite, the creator of the deck. It could be an upside-down M, which would signify the Hebrew letter Mayim, which means water. It could also represent Mont Salvat, also known as the Mountain of Salvation, in northern Spain, where the Holy Grail is believed to be hidden. Finally, it could represent the Virgin Mary. There are 3 bells along the edge that are symbolic of the Holy Trinity in Christianity, which is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Bible considers bells to be a symbol of holiness. The Bible talks about bells on the hem of a high priest named Aaron. The bells were a sound that was pleasing to God and also told the people whether Aaron was in or out of the temple. You might need a magnifying glass, but there is a set of angel wings under the center bell. They are hard to see, but they are there. It is a further reminder that the chalice represents a gift from Spirit. We can see yods that look like droplets. The yod is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. 26 droplets represent the numerical value of the Hebrew word for God. Some authors also believe that these droplets could represent tears or even semen. The sky is gray. This is the color of neutrality and indicates inner wisdom. When the Ace of Cups appears in an upright position in a reading, it could symbolize a new beginning, fresh start, or emotional turning point in your life related to love, your emotions, intuition, or relationships. Basically, any situation where you feel overflowing with love and creativity and are full of hope for the future. The Ace of Cups can represent a new relationship of any kind. It could be with a person, so you have a new relationship with a friend, romantic partner, or business associate. It can also represent deepening your relationship with Spirit. It could mean that you are moving a romantic relationship to a new level, for example, getting engaged or married. It can also signify a pregnancy or the birth of a child. The Ace of Cups can also be about developing a new relationship with yourself. Perhaps you take up meditation, yoga, or tarot cards to deepen your self-love. The Ace of Cups can represent that you're beginning a project that makes your soul sing. That might be a hobby, work project, or personal project. For instance, you are a singer-songwriter and you are starting to work on a new musical that has you feeling creatively excited. Finally, it can represent getting in touch with your emotions and intuition. You are responding with your heart and not your head. Here's an example from my life about the Ace of Cups in an upright position, and it is about meeting my husband. In a few months, we will have been together 40 years, so it was a while ago. But I clearly remember the excitement of falling in love and knowing that he felt the same way about me. It really is an intoxicating sensation. I laugh about it now, but he used to travel for business, and my heart would break at the idea that I wouldn't see him for 3 days. He'd returned from a trip, and I felt like my life was complete again. That is the feeling of the Ace of Cups. When the Ace of Cups appears in a reversed position, it can signify that, instead of your cup overflowing, the liquid has run out. You are feeling drained, empty, depressed, isolated, or disconnected. It can mean that the love that you felt for someone is no longer there, or you are experiencing unrequited love. That you are repressing your emotions, or you are too emotional. Or that you are afraid to start a new relationship or project. The Ace of Cups can mean that you are not listening to your intuition, or you no longer trust it. That you are experiencing creative blocks. Rather than having your emotions and creativity flow freely, you feel stuck. It can mean that you do not have a relationship with spirit. And finally, it can refer to infertility or problems becoming pregnant. Here's an example of the reversed Ace of Cups from my life about experiencing creative blocks. I am a pretty creative person. I love to write and quilt, and I play the piano. I really enjoy creating and usually have too many ideas and not enough time. About 10 years ago, I entered a quilt show. It was a relatively new quilt show and focused on modern quilts rather than the traditional kind that most of you are likely familiar with. Before I go on with this story, I need to say that quilt judging is a thing, and quilt judges are certified. They are taught to give balanced critiques, so they might say that your use of color is good, but you had some construction issues. The idea is to give constructive feedback, but not discourage the quilt maker. I had entered quilt shows before and done well enough. I think I'd entered 4 quilts in this show, and my feedback was horrible. I was so ashamed at how bad it was that I didn't talk about it to any of my quilt friends. And, not surprisingly, it sent me into a big creative slump that took months to get out of. Rather than being overflowing with creativity, I felt drained, empty, and depressed. To me, that is the energy of the Ace of Cups in the reversed position. Eventually, my love of quilting came back and something else interesting happened. I shared my terrible feedback with a friend who was also a certified quilt judge. And she told me that many, many other people had also entered the show and gotten similarly bad critiques. The judges that they used were not certified quilt judges and didn't even have a lot of experience in the quilt world. This speaks to one of the lessons from this card. We need to learn how to fill our own cups and deal with times in our lives when our cups are turned upside down without letting it completely derail us. Here are some questions to help you get in touch with the Ace of Cups. Number 1, what gifts do you think Spirit has handed you? Number 2, can you recall times in your life when your cup of love and creativity was overflowing? Number 3, how can you fill your own cup during tough times in your life? Number 4, do you trust your intuition? And finally, number 5, is it time for a new beginning in areas of your life related to love, relationships, or projects that will fill your soul? So I hope that this video has given you a good look into the Ace of Cups. Please join me for the next video, which is the Two of Cups.